Hey guys, it's Jeff, and today Apple has in fact released iOS 13.2, which is really exciting because we've seen throughout the betas, we've been seeing new features, speed and performance improvements, and also battery life improvements as well. And we've just been seeing so many active kind of changes going on with iOS 13.2, and finally it's here in an official version for you guys to go ahead and install. So it's available today over the air update if you want to go ahead and install, but if you want to wait and kind of watch our review of iOS 13.2, this is that video that you want to be watching. So today we have it installed onto our device here. We'll be going ahead and checking out for new features, the changes that have been made over iOS 13.1.3, and then we'll be taking a look at battery life performance as well, because that is super important. And of course, we'll give you our final verdict of if you should be installing iOS 13.2 onto your personal devices or not. So let's go ahead and dive in to iOS 13.2. Okay guys, so once you update to iOS 13.2, you'll have some new information in the general and then about menu. So obviously we have a new software version, iOS 13.2. When you go ahead and tap on that, you have a new build number here, 17B84. That is your new build number for the official version of iOS 13.2. Now, if you go down in this menu, you'll see that you have new modem firmware. So 1.02.14, which is what we saw in our last beta of iOS 13.2. So if you watched our last beta update video, nothing has really changed since then. But over iOS 13.1.3, we have had several modem firmware changes, and these are all in support of better LTE connection and better LTE speeds for your devices. Now, let's talk about the brand new Deep Fusion feature coming to the camera app. Deep Fusion is something that we can't really see in like a menu in iOS. It's actually all built into the new iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Pro lineups cameras. So basically, Deep Fusion uses all three cameras to create a really awesome looking photo where you can really zoom in and get a lot more detail in your photos. So basically, when you zoom in, the three cameras will be using kind of AI technology to make everything a little bit more sharper and clearer when zooming in. You won't really notice it from maybe like a normal photo that you take, but if you zoom into specific photos, you'll definitely see more clarity in your photos over iOS 13.1.3. Now, speaking of the camera app, if you go into the camera app and then onto video settings, you can now actually change your 4K to maybe HD, like 1080p. You can actually change the video quality settings now through the camera app. You don't have to go into settings. You can also change the frames per second that you're using. So I just change it to 60. I can go back down to 24. That's really cool. And this isn't limited to just the video section. You can actually go to slow-mo and change your 240 to, let's say, a 120. So that is really cool. Of course, to change to 240, you have to make sure that you have the best settings for that set up in the settings app for the camera menu. So you actually have to have like the more efficient kind of setting change there. But you can now go ahead and in the slow-mo and video settings, change your frame rate and also your quality as well. So that is really, really cool to now have in the camera app here in iOS 13.2. Now, unfortunately, this is only limited to iPhone 11 and 11 Pro devices. So for anyone else, unfortunately, this will not be coming to your devices. But for those of you who have the newer devices, this is an option for you guys. Now, we also have a change to the animation for the volume indication UI. Basically, the UI has changed, so the animation of going in and out from the left-hand side is definitely different here. And yeah, it's a brand new animation. I think it looks a lot better and just is a lot more clean of a look for that volume UI on the side. Now, speaking of volume UI, if you go into the control center, the volume UI indication here has in fact gotten a little bit bigger. So it's a little bit more out there. Make sure that you know that's the volume UI control, and just looks a little bit more bold there as you go into the control center. Now, what I really like is if you go into the volume UI, basically this will show at the top here whatever you're connected. So this is the speakers. So that that is not in the volume slider here. So when you go ahead and use the slider, yes, the kind of UI is slow to update, but it's not kind of in the middle of that slider like it is on the outside here. So it's a little bit more quick to update here on the outside. I just wish that Apple would kind of update that to work just a little bit faster here on the inside of this control. But nevertheless, that is a change here within iOS 13.2. Now, another change here is if you go into the control center and you have a connected Bluetooth device or anything like that, it will now show its icon here on the volume slider UI. So you don't have to like figure out if you're actually connected or not. Now, if you have a device connected and you go into this menu, as I said before, it will show whatever device is connected there at the top, so it's not in the middle of this slider. And for those of you who have kind of devices with noise cancellation technology, maybe you have Beats Studio 3 wireless headphones, or you have the new AirPods, the AirPod Pro headphones, you will now have a noise control or noise cancellation kind of toggle here at the bottom. So you have to have that noise cancellation technology with your headphones. I'm sure like Bose and other headphone manufacturers will soon be getting the ability to, have control over the noise cancellation for those headphones. But just for now, any Apple related headphones like Beats headphones or the AirPods will have the noise control here at the bottom. So you can go ahead and toggle noise control on or off. You see there, I turned it off. There's a specific animation for that, and I'll just turn it back on here. And you can do that all through the volume UI in the control center, which is really, really cool. It's something we'd never seen before, even though we've had noise cancellation for a long time now, but Apple's finally bringing that here in iOS 13.2 with a really solid update here to this UI in the control center. Now, if you go into the music app and then you go on to this menu here where you can go ahead and shuffle your music, if you go ahead and tap on the shuffle button, there's a new animation here for the shuffle. So it doesn't just kind of, reshuffle everything. It kind of has a specific animation to the shuffle. So that's really nice to see. Just a really small change here within the music app. Now, if you go into the settings app and then you go down to privacy, there's actually a new menu here for research. So if you go into this research menu, you can see it doesn't really have anything of substance just yet, but this menu is here and there will be more information as research apps come out and they will kind of display your privacy options here within that menu. Now, if you go back out to the main privacy menu here, you'll see that analytics and improvements, the name has been changed from just analytics to analytics and improvements. And if you go in there, you'll see this menu has not really changed. It's just the overall menu name has changed. So that's something new within the privacy app. Now, if you go into general and then go down to AirPlay and handoff, instead of just being AirPlay, it's AirPlay and handoff now. So if you go into this menu, you actually have a new menu here, which gives you options for automatic play to AirPlays or AirPlay or TVs. So basically it will ask you, what you want to do. So you can have it set up as automatic. It can ask you all the time or just never. So you actually have some menu options here within the AirPlay and handoff menu now. Now, if you go down to the wallpaper menu and then go on to selecting a still wallpaper, the new dynamic theme wallpapers for iOS 13, this button at the bottom here was not really explained properly, but now there's an explanation of what this button actually does. So you can see that it's for perspective zoom, so you can set it on or off. And that will just give you the option for that toggle, but it's never really been explained before. A lot of people were asking, and now you have an explanation of what that button actually does here in the wallpaper menu. Now, a really new option here is found within the Siri and search menu. So we had that huge debacle of Siri and dictation being saved, and there was a kind of big privacy issue with that. So if you have a problem with your information being saved for Siri and dictation, you can go into the Siri and dictation menu here within the Siri menu, and you can go ahead and delete your history. So if you want to go and delete your history, just select that. Go to delete dictation history, and basically this sends a request for your Siri and dictation history to be deleted on the Apple side of things. So their servers will go ahead and delete your information. So far, it clearly says your request has been received here, but there's no indication that it actually has been deleted. I would imagine in the future, Apple will add kind of like a notification or maybe an email being sent to you notifying you that this information has in fact been deleted on Apple's side of things. We'll have to wait and see if Apple does that in the near future. Now, if you go into the Messages app, you can see on the bottom left-hand corner here, we have a new kind of emoji or icon for the emojis. So the smile is just tweaked a little bit different here. So we have a new logo or kind of icon for getting to the emoji menu. And if you go into this menu, you have a plethora of new emojis. I'll have that on screen here so you can go ahead and check them out. But there's a lot of new emojis here located within the Messages app. And if you go into the more detailed specifics of the emojis, we actually have a lot more options for couples. So if you go into like a couple here, let's say girl and girl, you can actually go ahead and select a different kind of skin color. So if I want the first girl to be kind of like a darker color here, I can do that. And then the second girl I can put as a lighter color, but maybe with brunette hair, I can do that. And then on the bottom here, you can go ahead and select what you actually want to use. It will give you just a standard option, or you can use your customized option and do that. So that will be entered into your keyboard, and it will actually save as the default in your kind of menu option there for your emoji. You can of course go ahead and change it back. There's a lot of customization options, so I can just go ahead and just change whatever, and there's always that default section option if I want to use that in the future. So that's really cool that Apple is adding some diversity here to their emojis, especially with ones that have pairs. I'm definitely looking forward to more of this in the near future for emojis, but definitely go out and check all the new emojis. They look really awesome, and I'm sure that you guys will enjoy them. Now, if you go ahead and select on an app, there's a new option to go ahead and delete the app. We had edit home screen and the share options before, but if you want to easily delete an app and not have to wait, go into, edit home screen and then go ahead and press on the X, you now have a faster option where you can just go ahead and delete the app straight from that 3D touch menu, which is really, really cool and really convenient. Now, if you're going ahead and downloading a specific app, you have new options here. So pause download and cancel download. So you can do that as your app is downloading and installing. So you can actually control if you want to kind of confirm if you want this app downloaded or not. So maybe if it's a mistake, you can go ahead and cancel the download and it will go ahead and cancel it. But since mine has already installed, all I have to do is just go ahead and delete the app. But if you have like a longer, install process where the app is a lot bigger, you can go ahead, pause the installation process, or cancel it altogether straight through 3D Touch on the home screen. Now, if you go into the widgets menu and you go down to weather and kind of expand this menu, you have a new UI here, which is a lot bigger and a lot more prominent. So your UI for the weather widget will just kind of give you a little bit more information, and all the icons will be a little bit bigger. So that just gives you a better look at what you're looking at in the widget app here for the weather app. I think it's a welcome change, and you always want more things to be a little bit more prominent when looking at them on your device. Okay guys, so those were all of the new features and changes in iOS 13.2. If you have any comments, questions, or anything like that about iOS 13.2 new features and changes, comment those in the comment section down below. And of course, if you found anything personally that you really like about iOS 13.2, maybe any new features or changes that you have personally found, definitely leave those in the comment section down below. We'd love to take a look at what you've found. But let's talk about speed and performance, because that is extremely important when it comes to iOS updates, because typically we kind of see a rollback in speed and performance, updating to newer and newer versions of iOS. But now in iOS 13, we've actually been seeing constant improvements, and it's really exciting to see what we're getting here in iOS 13.2. So let's dive in. iOS 13.2, as far as the CPU performance goes, between the single core and multi-core performance is up 11%. So we have an 11% increase between the single core and multi-core over iOS 13.1.3. And of course, the most improvement coming from the CPU is the multi-core performance. The single core is not as great. It's kind of within the margin of error, but multi-core performance, which handles like most of the operations of iOS, is definitely on the rise here up 11%. Now let's go over to the GPU side of things, because that is where you'll see like the visual changes with speed and performance. So the GPU performance is up a solid 7% over iOS 13.1.3, and this includes clear visual improvements. So going throughout iOS, you'll see that every operation is just really smooth and really fast. So going in through operations like the control center, opening and closing apps, going through different menus and everything like that, performance is definitely on the rise. And also opening apps. If your app is optimized for iOS 13, you'll notice that your apps are launching just a whole lot faster. So that's another improvement that you'll be seeing as developers update their apps to be kind of more in tune with iOS 13. And we're definitely seeing that here in iOS 13.2, taking advantage of that kind of infrastructure that has been made with app developers and iOS 13. Now, the biggest change that has been made in regards to speed and performance is battery life performance. We'll kind of take a deep dive into this, but 6% improvement in battery performance across all of our devices, not only the iPhone 11 series or the iPhone 11 Pro series, we're actually seeing it all the way down to the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. So over iOS 13.1.3, a 6% increase, and that goes down to the 8 and 8 Plus, which are receiving this benefit. So that is huge, because even older devices are receiving kind of battery performance boost, not just the newer devices that are of course taking advantage of kind of new code being written in iOS 13.2, improving battery performance. But it's really nice to see that older devices are definitely being taken care of here in later versions of iOS 13.2. Now, battery performance is definitely on the rise in Geekbench in regards to like the tests that we're doing, but it's actually a visual performance increase as well, or an actual use performance increase. So I can visually see, or kind of physically see, when using my phone throughout the day, that battery life is definitely better, and that 6% increase is actually very huge. So if you have a phone that isn't doing so well in battery performance, maybe you're on iOS 12 or maybe you're on previous versions of iOS 13, that is one single reason that you should be updating to iOS 13.2, because battery performance is definitely better here in this update. Now, I just mentioned that you maybe should update just for the battery life issues that you may be having, but let's take a full spectrum look at why you should be updating to iOS 13.2. One, you have the new features, which is featuring new Emoji, Deep Fusion, and all of the other new features that we talked about. Those are definitely awesome new features that you'll want to see in iOS 13.2. But moving on to speed and performance, that is a big reason as to why you should be updating to iOS 13.2. We've been seeing constant improvements to even older devices updating to iOS 13, the iOS 13 lineup, and it continues here with iOS 13.2. We're seeing a lot of speed and performance updates that are making your phones more efficient and also faster at the same time, which helps battery life in regards to that efficiency that I just mentioned. So your phones are becoming more and more efficient, which leads to better battery life, and better battery life means you can use your phone just that little bit longer. I'm actually able to use my phone for like a day and a half now with solid use. I'm using it all the time, and I'm getting about a day and a half of battery life, which is really awesome. And that also rolls over to speed and performance. You're not having to work as hard going throughout apps and everything like that. I'm able to go and kind of do everything that I want to really quickly. So it's saving me time, and I'm getting better battery life, which is really cool. So guys, if you want a recommendation on if you should update to iOS 13.2, I get that question all the time. Should I be updating to this latest version of iOS? For this version, yes, you should definitely be updating. There's tons of new features to check out, and there's definitely speed and performance improvements that you need to experience on your devices. So guys, thank you for watching this update video of iOS 13.2. Of course, any comments, questions, or anything like that, comment those in the comment section down below. If you want to stay up to date with maybe iOS 13.3 betas, definitely get subscribed and hit that like button, and also hit that bell button to get updates as soon as any of that content is released, because that will be super exciting to see what's new in iOS 13.2.1 or maybe iOS 13.3 coming really soon. So again, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed our content, and hopefully we'll be seeing you in some upcoming videos. Peace.